Messi. Messi. Oh my goodness. Balotelli. Aguero. That is extraordinary. What a headshot. What a hit. Back of the net.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. No, I'm just kidding. I hope yous are all full of whatever you can get into you, be it food, beer, fizzies, or sweets. Happy Christmas, Merry Holidays, and all that good stuff. Not a Pundit is here to keep you warm on this winter night between Christmas and New Year's. I'm delighted to be joined as ever by the classic crew of marauders. That is the Chris Kringle himself, Conor Glennon, and the eggnog Nathan Byrne. Gentlemen, how are we doing this festive season?
Happy Christmas, boys! I'll get it done nice and early. Happy Christmas! Great intro, Killian. And nothing like a bit of football this time of year, eh?
Yes, and for me, Santa's been very good to me, so I'm over the moon, lads. Ready to get into the new year and everything that awaits us.
I am a little bit disappointed by the lack of Christmas jumpers. I am representing the Christmas tree. We have red or whatever, but it's not an ugly Christmas jumper. Basically, how this episode is going to take place is we're going to look over the calendar year that was 2024 in the year of our Lord. And we're going to be looking at the team of the year. That is the 11 best players from the Premier League that we think. It's going to be very Premier League heavy. We're going to look at the flop of the year and the howler of the year, which sounds similar, but they're very distinct. We're going to be looking at the surprise of the year, the player of the year, and the manager of the year. Gentlemen, are yous lock, stock, and two loaded barrels ready for this?
I think there's going to be a few little fisticuffs on this one. I think especially from the red contingent over there, but we shall see.
No, very tame over here, very tame.
Right, lads, I think we're going to kick off with the team of the year. I think it's going to be the body of this, not to belabor the point too much. We're going to go for a 4-3-3. We're not going to go for... Well, we could actually line them out in a nice Christmas tree formation. If you kind of keep the wingers very centered and have a proper top man up front, which I think in my formation could actually work. Conor, goalkeeper, who stood out to you this calendar year?
So I'm kind of stuck between two names. When I was looking at this, and as I joked earlier on, I think the red contingent mightn't be too happy overall with my squad, but I think Onana for sure is in the conversation for this one. I think he's been in a tough situation with United where they've had a lackluster defense in front of him, and he's had a lot of shots to take on. I think if I had a B option in there, I think this latter side of the year, Matt Sells has been phenomenal for Forest, and I know Forest have had the most shots on them this season, or up there at least. So for me, I think he's done a magnificent job to captain the ship and keep them far higher than they arguably deserve to be. What are you saying, boys?
I'm thinking Queeving Gallagher, lads.
I knew someone was going to throw him in there.
I think Gallagher has been nothing short of amazing for Liverpool. I think he's came in and not only done the job, but I think he's done even better than everyone thought he would. And we go on about game time, this and that. Over the last year, he has played a lot of games, and I think based on his performance and what he's done, I think he's definitely a shout for me on a goalkeeper that's impressed me this year.
I think if we don't go with him as the goalkeeper, I would definitely, if there was an award for most impactful goalkeeper this year, he'd be right at the top of that list.
Ironically, he gets benched on our team of the year more than likely. That is just delicious. I went for a different name altogether.
Okay.
I think his performance has kind of gone under the radar, but there was little expected from him last year. He may not be the best this season, but I think he's been very good. I think any faults are less his and more his team's, and I think he's, by my account anyway, he's overperformed than what was expected, which is Vicario for Tottenham. I don't think he's had an error that led to a goal. So while he's conceded a good few, it wasn't him. And he's faced a lot more shots than you'd expect a Tottenham goalkeeper to have. Um, I think he has something like a 1 in 5 clean sheet rate, which for how not Pep, Ange
And
plays, yeah, Freudian slip. But like when you're that really front foot team that is like we'll outscore rather than building a really really solid defense, I think he if nothing else really deserves a shout out for like his value, kind of like Kelleher, his value or what somebody would pay for him isn't actually
reflected
just
in his
reflected
ability.
in his transfer value. You know,
He
yeah, I think
unfortunately
he's overperformed for sure.
he unfortunately just broke his ankle as well. Did you see that? He broke his ankle and he played 20 minutes of the recent game.
wow. Yeah. So lads, we do have to get a consensus on this team. I did forget to mention that at the top. We do have to
Oh,
agree. So
oh God.
who are we saying?
Oof, I do like the thought process with Vicario. For me, I'm not just doing it to be funny. I don't think Kelleher is the starting guy. I do think he's been incredible in the minutes that he's had this year. So he can definitely take our bench. For me, it'd be between Vicario and Sells.
Oof. I do think Onana is worth the shout as well. Like even if you look at his FPL, I think he's one of the top scoring.
Well,
See,
lads,
O'Connell's one of those ones that his price would be reflective of how he is playing. Well, that's what I like about Sells and Vicario. You know, they're
Yeah.
overperforming.
I'm gonna put it down. I'm going on Nana.
Okay.
I'd be happy to go Onana. So Connor, unless you want Cells,
No, I mean the two of them were there. I think if the general consensus on Onana, I think we stick with Onana.
I think it's just down to like he's Manchester United would have been worse off this calendar
Oh,
year without
100%.
him. Like if we were including this beginning of last season, he wouldn't be in a running. But I think he kind of came into things at the end of last season, and he's kind of continued it on into this year to be a solid, if not exceptional goalkeeper. Um, right back, Nate.
For right back, I am going to go with Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Oh,
Makes two of us.
I think it's just it's a bit of a no-brainer. He's came in. He's an exceptional player. He's a world-class footballer. Don't put him near midfield ever again. He's a right back through and through, and yeah, he's the best right back in the Premier League.
uh,
I have to agree with you. Like his vision, his delivery is arguably one of the best passers. If I definitely put him in the top three passers of the ball in the Premier League. You know, Real Madrid are sniffing around him. Who knows where that's going to go? There's been, you know, over the last couple of months, videos leaking out of him doing videos around the city and people thinking it's a new contract renewal. We shall see. But no, I think it's an absolute lock for me. But what are you saying? Any fighting you for that right back position, Killian?
I think Pedro Porro has been fantastic. Like I think he's really like not. I just realized that's 2 Tottenham picks in a row, and Tottenham haven't necessarily been gangbusters at all this year. But I think he ended the season well, and he started this one well. Like one of the things I'll say against Trent is like since Slot came in, he's not creating in the same way that he was under Klopp. Like I don't think he particularly has that many assists this year.
I think defensively
Um,
he's got better though, which
yeah,
sounds
like
stupid. You know what I
I,
mean?
I I think he's playing more of a part in the system rather than being like getting the stats to kind of be able to kind of go, yeah, well, here's the GA for this match. I think he's very good. I don't know. If I was buying a player right now, I'd quicker choose Pedro Porro over Trent because I think Porro is more of a traditional wing back. Um, it's 2 against 1. Like I I would still go for Porro, but
Yeah, he's definitely look. Paro was my B option for right back. So like it's one of those ones I just if I'm amazed we've got a Man United fan to agree on a Liverpool player this early on, and so I think with that we'll stick his name on the list.
centre back Connor.
Okay, so kind of obviously we've got two centre backs in our system
Yeah.
here.
Are we going to go two at a time, or are we going to go one each?
One each.
First.
Let's go one each. I think the first one for me is Virgil van Dijk. I know he's been not exactly what has been expected of him compared to previous years. And he's obviously in a contract year, which brings its own pressures. But I do think overall, he's still, like we've said a million times, this pod, if you designed a centre back in a lab, he's your man. And I put it this way: if someone said you can put one centre back in your team to to save your life, he's up there for me. I don't know about you boys.
My one would be William Saliba. Um, Exceptional player,
Mm-hmm.
profile unreal, young, really talented. I think really came into that Arsenal team. I think he's a leader now. Um, yeah, to me he's the centre back I'd want going into the future. Is he's very, dare I bring up a United reference, Varane-esque, I think, in his build. But in terms of a centre back that I'd want for years to come, it would be him, and I think he's been exceptional.
Well, you both pick my two picks. I'll just say that
So
so we can move on.
Virgil was my other pick as well, by the way. So
Okay.
Connor, who is your other centre back?
So it sounds like a Liverpool loving at the moment, but my B option was Kanate because I think this side of the year he's been very impressive. Maybe it's just my FPL bias of him doing good points for me, but the one standout actually outside of the usual suspects would be Nikola Milinkovic. I think has been very very good. Again, that kind of his market value may not reflect how good he's performing, but I feel like it's a bit of a Liverpool love in, and I'm going to get edged out on these two centre backs.
I just think that Saliba and Van Dijk, however
yeah,
boring it is, they're both Rolls Royces of players. Like, they're just so good on the ball. They're defensively sound, very, very intelligent. They're both kind of at opposite ends of the potential and current abilities, if we want to use kind of gaming terms. One on the up and one on the come down, but like, if imagine having them two in your team,
Well, I
you'd
think
be
I think you're exactly right with that. Like, I mean, and then the job that Saliba's been able to do in the time that he's been in that Arsenal team is nothing short of incredible. And like you said, he really is the second coming of Virgil. I think.
yeah. I think unless you're going to put up a fight, I think there are two picks.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, absolutely. Like I think notable shout out to Milinkovic, solid season, but yeah, you ain't getting past those two boys.
At left back, just so that Liverpool fans know, I did consider Andy Robertson. I didn't go with him, but I did. I think he's been good. I think he's very good, but I just couldn't see past Guardiol, at City. Like, like, what a player.
For me, like it's one of those years where normally when you're picking, centre backs and wing backs for team of the year, there's not any one player that you're like, this could be a Ballon d'Or level player. And I know defenders are never really gonna get to that level, but you look at Trent. If he won the Ballon d'Or, it wouldn't be a surprise. You look at Virgil, wouldn't be a surprise. Saliba wouldn't be a surprise, and Gvardiol fits in there perfectly too. I think all four of those players have reinvented the positions that they're playing, and maybe that's down to the Pep style of football over the last couple of years, bringing that in. Maybe at the last decade of Pep, but there you look at, not ragging on Gary Neville. I think he was incredible in his time, but like you look at that caliber of a player versus the caliber of player we're talking right now, it's chalk and cheese.
I think I lose this one, lads. My left back, I didn't actually choose a traditional left back. It was more a player that I think deserves to be in the team and couldn't fit into the two centre back spots. It would be Gabriel from Arsenal. I think
Fair.
for a player that's come in and not been a standout name, that wasn't a standout signing, for what he's become to that team, I think he's indispensable to them, and I think they've got such a good partnership at the back. But he's just under Saliba. But to me, he's one that I couldn't leave out of my squad, so he would be my left back.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of when Kanate first arrived at Liverpool, and he wasn't quite there yet when Matip was. Like,
Yeah.
Van Dijk got that bad injury, and then Matip just was a standout but not a standout as well. He was amazing, but he wasn't quite getting the flowers. I think Gabriel is kind of like that now for Arsenal. The really, really solid partner.
I think
Player.
Gabriel and Saliba are kind of Arsenal's version of Ferdinand and Vidic, where just two absolute, strong. They're almost telepathic in their movements with each other, and they just give and go as defenders. And again, they play attacking football for defenders that we haven't seen in really ever before. So yeah, no, they're two sensational players, but for me, Gvardiol just edges it.
Yeah, and just one other quick shout out in terms of defenders in general is Christian Romero has been very, very good for Tottenham.
Yes.
Just I think that's worth saying. The midfield, I think this is where we could start to get a little bit feisty, as it's a packed area. I
Are
think
we
there
are we
is.
calling Salah a midfielder, or like we do in
I
FPL?
think. I think fit them in wherever you want.
Okay.
If the player comes up and you have them in a different position, we can say that, and then that's where you can weigh up whether or not it's worth putting them in that position or not, and potentially losing out on them. So this is where your debating skills really come into it. I think there's one name though that we can all probably agree on. He did win the Ballon d'Or, and that's Rodri. Or am I wrong in saying that?
Funnily enough, I feel like an absolute lunatic that he actually isn't on my list, and I think it's just out of recency bias of the injury put him out of my head. Yeah, there's no world in which he is not in this team. He is a lock. End of discussion. One position gone.
One position down.
Vinny, my
Nate,
Ballon d'Or winner.
Nate,
Um,
your first midfielder for the two remaining spots.
besides Rodri, Jesus, I'm feeling like a bit of an Arsenal fanboy here. My next one would be Odegaard.
Mm.
I think he's such an intelligent and such a smart player. To be honest, there's not many footballers out there like him. I think what he brings on the pitch is quite unique. He can really turn defense into attack like that. Like not Kevin De Bruyne esque, but along the same lines. And to me, he's just been vital to the Arsenal team, so he would get my pick in midfield.
Also, from a leadership perspective, he's really taken that Arsenal dressing room and brought them together, which hasn't been the easiest of tasks over previous years. For me, the Odegaard part of my list here was a kind of a Gravenberch, Caicedo, and Odegaard in this kind of trio of pick one. And for me, Odegaard, although the other two players have performed very strongly this year, I think you're right, Nate. Odegaard for me. What about you, Killian? Try pivot me off it if you can.
Um, I'd be happy enough with Odegaard.
But
I think it's Odegaard or Rice.
okay.
Rice is my other one, so like I'm just gonna go get my Arsenal jersey now. Yeah,
Like I think either or. Like I think Gravenberch and Casado is recency bias. I think that's more this season than it was last.
Yeah.
Obviously with Gravenberch. But like I'd be happy for one or the other. I don't think both.
you don't think
I
both
would.
Rice and Odegaard?
I don't think both of them. And I would have Rice over Odegaard. I think he was a lot more impactful to that team. Like it wasn't until Rice. Like when Rice plays badly, Arsenal plays badly. When Rice plays good, Arsenal plays good. When Odegaard plays,
He's their Rodri. Yeah.
yeah, when Odegaard plays badly, Arsenal can still play good. When Odegaard plays good, Arsenal can play amazing. And I think that's the difference. It's like the drummer in a band. A really good drummer can make a band amazing, but a really average drummer can make a great band average or bad. And I think Rice is the player that makes you from being like a top four team into a title contender.
I think he might struggle to get me to move on both of them. I think they're my personal locks.
For
But I'm
me,
happy for you two to debate it out.
I'm in. So my flat three with Rodri in the mix of this was going to be Saka, Odegaard, Rodri as my.
Oof.
I think Saka would. For me, Saka would be a right or left winger.
See, then, yeah, because when we get into the wingers is where that's where it gets tricky. Because, say, for example, Salah would be a winger, Mbueno winger. Palmer is in that discussion too. It's one of those, like, I think, are we looking at this as trying to fit in the best players of the season or the best players in those positions?
I think best players of the year. I'd happier play a player out of position if they deserve to be in the team rather than try and force.
Because where I think Saka,
I think the difference though is you wouldn't see Saka that deep on the pitch, so I'd struggle to put him in a midfielder spot. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Where
See,
I'd,
yeah,
that's
I'd,
where.
I'd
that's
easier
fair.
see I'd easier see Cole Palmer further
Well,
back than
see,
Saka. Do you know what I mean?
speaking of, that's what I did because the way I saw it, I had two pivot players in Rodri and Rice, with Cole Palmer playing as an attacking centre midfield,
Going for your Christmas tree.
going for more of the Christmas
Oh,
tree.
lads, we forgot Kobe Maino as well. Do you know what I mean?
Did we?
Okay, let's.
Did we forget?
I think we've got Rodri. We're saying, are we saying Odegaard or Rice?
I'm saying Rice.
I'm saying, is it? Do I only get?
You're not getting both of them.
Okay, I would want Odegaard, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you on that one. And then
Oh,
that other mid, are we now saying is Cole Palmer?
I think so. I that's where I had Palmer.
I'd Palmer further up.
See, where you would have had Palmer, I think I'd Mbueno on the right
Mm,
wing.
I don't
uh,
have him by now.
so basically, the argument then becomes do we want Palmer in this position or do we argue about him being in the team later on?
I
And
I
I would rather have him in it than not, considering the impact that he had this season. And I think him playing in attacking midfield is absolutely fine.
Yeah, fair.
so we're going with Rodri, Odegaard.
Palmer,
Yeah. Okay.
cool. Conor, uh, right wing.
Mbueno. I think his impact, not only for every person in fantasy football, that I feel like everyone has him at this point. Again, just as played out of his skin. Look, Brentford are a fantastic team, but his level is far higher than that. I expect a move out of him fairly soon for decent money too. I think it's from a goals perspective, from an assist perspective, just from I suppose if you look at his heat map from games, his ability to get around the pitch, and I think also as well, there's no controversy around him really. He just gets on the pitch, does his job, and you don't really hear much outside that. So I know the controversy part isn't much of it. I think it just plays into the character of a player. But for me, I'd be hard pressed to push him out of there. But I'm sure you guys might pivot me out. Who are you saying, Killian?
Um, I'm not sure if it's on the right side or not, but I think he definitely is worth a shout out. Is Eze
Yeah,
up until Palace's wobble? I think he's been very very good. I don't know if I'd have him in my team, but I think he's worth a shout out.
honorable mention. Yeah,
Jared
he
Bowen
was
is
on my
well
list.
worth a mention. I think.
Yeah,
And I hate to say it, Anthony Gordon. I don't
again,
think he's
recency
in it.
bias a little bit with that though.
Yeah. I think Kudus has been fantastic for West Ham. But I think, not to be boring, but if I was going to have him there, I'd have Salah.
See, I'm putting Salah on the left.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, I'll happily withdraw Salah from there. I just think I just think he needs to be in it.
Oh, Salah's in that
Um,
team. Yeah.
So I think Bowen, but I'd be happy with Mbueno. Like it's just Bowen. I think they're probably on the same level, but Mbueno probably had a bigger impact on his team. So I think
I'd agree with that, but I would say if I was a manager picking a player for my team, Bowen is stronger, more of a leader. Again, but these are all characteristics that probably don't play into this. Nate, what are you saying for that right wing?
Phil Foden.
I mean, yeah, that's just boring.
I
Not
mean,
even
like,
that. I think he's
I'll
just
just be honest.
overrated.
I don't think he's overrated at all. I think he's an exceptional footballer. I think, people laugh at this comparison, but I think he's the closest thing we've seen to Messi in terms of style of play. On the ball. On the ball, there's low center of gravity. I could watch it all day. He's an unreal footballer. Um,
How
he'd be
much is he paying you?
nothing. You know you're getting my honest opinion when I'm talking about a City Liverpool
Yeah,
player. Like,
fair.
come on, lads. You're hard to get that enemy, but I do think he's an exceptional footballer, and he'd be my right winger. But I don't think I'll get him.
Are we going with the Brentford boy?
I think we're going with the Brentford boy. We need to get some of the other teams in this team, in fairness.
So with that, we move to left wing. Then
Can I start this?
For me, it has to be a lock at Salah. But Nate, what are you saying?
Alejandro Garnacho.
Oh, please.
Oh, no.
You're
Lads,
not winning this one, mate.
12 goals, 4 assists in his first breakout season. I think he's been exceptional.
You've more
And
chance of seeing Steve Bruce in that left wing.
As you said, we need to get more teams in the team, so help a brother out.
You got your United lad, Nonana. You pipe down back over there. We haven't even got a Newcastle player in this team.
Or Sunderland.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're coming back up.
Next year, lads. Next year. I think there's a couple of shout outs for this one. I do think it's a lock with Salah, just because I think he's been so damn good at the end of the Klopp era into the Slot era. I think he's handled it really well. I think Son needs a shout out.
Yeah.
Because I don't have him down the centre. I think Watkins needs a shout out because I don't have him down the centre.
Ooh.
I think he is good. But I think Saka as well.
Saka for left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think because I had Salah on the right.
Yeah.
My stat pattern.
Saka, but I think Salah he's just been so good, Conor.
Oh, Salah's been absolutely incredible. Like, I mean, is I don't know the precise figures on his kind of goal involvements this year, but his between scoring goals themselves and assisting them, I think he's on track, if I'm right, to have the best year of his Liverpool career, which is phenomenal. Obviously, this year has been shrouded in not only for Salah, but Trent and Virgil in terms of contracts. Who knows where that lands out? I really hope that he stays in the Premier League. He's a joy to watch. Although he plays for the wrong team, I mean, I'd rather have him here than somewhere out in Saudi or elsewhere. And he's also just a beautiful footballer to watch. He's silky smooth, even at the age he's at, and he seems like he's in the best nick of his life, and he's got plenty more years to go.
Absolutely. So then down the centre. Is there much doubt, Nate?
Yes, there is.
Ooh, I've got three names here.
Okay, I've got a jokey one. I've got a real one. Which I'll give
Go jokey. What are you saying?
John Duran.
Yeah, in fairness, recency bias, but
But I'm going for his teammate Ollie Watkins up the middle. There you go. Lads, I think Ollie Watkins has been unreal for the last year. When you take out the systems, this and that, I think not only could he play for every team in the Premier League, I really do believe that. He's a top quality striker, and he's one that I wish United bought.
I think he's one that a lot of players or a lot of teams wish they bought. Watkins wasn't on my list. He was in and around it. I mean, look, the elephant in the room, boys, is Erling Haaland. Obviously, this side of the year, he hasn't. He's been very good in terms of his goal level. City obviously haven't been phenomenal. Last season he was phenomenal too. Recency bias though. Now Danny Welbeck I think was strong last year. He's had a really good season this year. I think we'd be laughed at as a podcast.
That's a different standard you're going to hold him to, though.
Yeah, I think we'd be laughed at as a podcast if we put Danny Welbeck ahead of Erling.
Back as well, by the way. I'd still just putting that out
there. And apparently Ten Hag tried to get him back. Seriously. But I was reading a piece a couple of weeks ago in the Athletic, and Ten Hag had asked the board to bring Welbeck back, but he was at a point in his relationship with the board that they didn't want to buy into any more of his transfers.
Hmm.
And this was around the time of when they wanted to replace Martial, and I think that would have been a phenomenal buy because he wouldn't have been that expensive.
I think he could have been even on a free. Was he not like contract expired and they left it for a couple of weeks and then they
You
renewed
might be
him?
right with that, actually.
It was
Heck,
something like that.
we got Johnny Evans back. We should get the whole band back together.
So honorable mention in terms of recency bias is Chris Wood. He's having the season of an absolute lifetime. But as good as that season has been, I just don't think we can see past Haaland.
No, but I do think
Oh, I
Isak is
can.
worth a shout out.
Yeah, absolutely.
More so for last season than this season. I think Nicholas Jackson has been actually really well performing.
He just needs to put the ball in the net more.
Yeah, like if he was scoring every shot, he'd be off the charts.
Yeah.
But like considering, I think he is pretty good in a team that hasn't performed that well for most of the year.
Has Ollie Watkins been better for Aston Villa than Haaland has been for Man City? Just
Only because Watkins has to do more because he has less resources around him. But I think the sheer numbers that Haaland is putting up are Ronaldo level back in his United days.
Watkins got Aston Villa to the Champions League. That's all I'm going to say.
I think the thing with Aston Villa though, it's a lot more of a team performance.
I don't not what Watkins though when he's putting up them numbers.
The love is spread.
I would wonder, and this isn't me ragging on Ollie Watkins. I really like him as a player. I think he's had a phenomenal year. I would like to see what would happen in a similar to Jack Grealish situation where he's put in a bigger team. How does he deal with it? Because right now he's playing fantastic football. Don't get me wrong. He's an England international. He's a big tournament experience, albeit limited in terms of minutes. But he hasn't had the taste of proper 1% team, and that's not to rag on Villa fans. There's differences here.
Yeah, I think Haaland is the call. Just for the number of hat tricks alone, like the numbers he's on, and he has had periods of injury. It's just insane.
How long did you see him staying in the league, boys? Haaland. I don't know because I obviously
it depends on when City get charged.
So
I don't see the whole team being in the league.
Well, like say the charges didn't exist. I think the longest once Pep goes, I'd be curious to see how long he stays.
I think that's the thing. I think you'll see him go. Although a lot of people said when Klopp would go, Salah would go, and that hasn't happened.
Yeah, so I mean it's pretty close on. I mean I no one knows who that'll pan out, but so that's our team, boys.
That is our team. Let's go very quickly over it again. In goals, we have Onana. Right back, we have Trent Alexander-Arnold. Centre back pairing of William Saliba and Virgil van Dijk with Gvardiol as our left back. Our midfield is a pairing of Rodri, Odegaard, and Cole Palmer. And up front, we have Mbuenu and Salah on the wings and headed up by Haaland. Anybody want to suggest a captain?
You beat me to it. I literally just as you were reading it out, I was like, crap, we need a captain. I am going to say Rodri. And my only thinking around that is I've always been a major fan of the captain being in the middle of the park. Everything runs through him, sets the tone, controls the game, leads by example.
I was thinking Salah, just for
sheer vibes.
No, just like I think Slot has taken over the job so very well, and I think a lot of that is down to Salah and making Salah work. So, mate, who are you thinking for captain?
Odegaard, pretty self-explanatory. Great captain for Arsenal, and I think he'd do a fine job for our team, gentlemen.
Odegaard was my B option on this one, so yeah, I'll happily join that queue.
I'm just gonna make sure it's said that this is not this is not a consensus. It's a two against one democratic vote. I would have quicker taken Rodri.
Yeah, but I
Um,
wouldn't have him Buemo on the right wing.
So you can still go Rodri. So you got a choice of Rodri or Odegaard.
you were willing to concede, Connor, so I'll follow suit with you.
Okay.
Which will we go with now? I think we're going to start off with flop of the year,
Okay.
Nate.
Nate, you
Okay.
take this one away.
There's only one, lads. Crystal Palace. What has happened? Holy.
See, now
Like,
I was thinking Palace more howler because I'll
oh.
see your Palace and I'll throw you a flop of the year being the Man United board. I know you got Amarim, but that's the tail end of this year. In its full calendar year, I think your Ineos friends have been a bit of a flop.
I I have a different flop of the year, and I think this is a signing that has had such little impact and left so quickly and brought more negativity to the team than anything else, and was almost certainly paid a bucket load of money to do nothing. Mark Clattenburg.
That's an absolute shout, and I
That was this year.
oh, I
Flop
got
of the
to give you
season.
that. Oh,
But
I absolutely got to give you that.
can I just point out how bad, like this is why Crystal Palace fits into flop of the year. 8 points in 12 games.
I
But
mean,
Last
they ended last season so well though.
last season they finished 10th. That is that's the drop of a lifetime. They're sitting
look,
19th in the league.
their form this season has been abominable, and but I will say they did well at the end of last season to
Tete was unbelievable at the end of last
yeah.
year, and they had under Glasner when he came in. They had a great rise. I just can't see past Clattenburg, Connor.
No, I have never been much of a fan of that man, but just I think that role being created was already a flop of the year candidate. The way he handled that role and the press furore that fell out of that role, and look, any man that's got a tattoo of a World Cup on his calf that didn't play in the final, that's a winner for me.
So flop of the year. Congratulations, Clattenburg. It's the least you deserve. Now, on to our howler, and the difference being is howler is a decision or a bad performance, or there's just one thing that makes you go, oh, rather than kind of the flop, which, as you can see, was kind of slightly longer standing. Does anybody want to put their hand up and be the good boy in the class?
Mine is a decision, but it's
Okay.
more, I should say, decisions.
Oh.
And it goes to Mr. Todd Bowley for just being Todd Bowley. Unless anyone has anything of specific howlers.
Mine is 2 words, but I will not provide explanation because everyone will know. Mr. David Coos. We'll leave it there, lads. Mr. David Coos.
Now, we should say all of the activities of one David Coote are all alleged at this point, and the investigation will come to an end at some point. But if true, definitely his extracurricular activities are probably the biggest professional howler of the year.
I have to say, Connor, Bowley, I think, is a bad shout for howler this year because this is the one year that he's actually got some things pretty much right.
Well, Enzo, yeah. Fair.
I think any other time in his tenure, I think he's still been bad this calendar year, but I don't think he's howler of the year. I have 2. One that's a little bit older and is my runner-up, which is the handling of Roy Hodgson leaving Palace. I think that was a howler by the board, and the only reason why I wouldn't rank it any higher is because of how good Glasner was at the end of last season. I think it deserves a mention. I'm pretty sure we mentioned it during the summer.
Yeah, it's deplorable he's done
good.
so much for that club.
But I think the biggest howler, and Nate, you brought him up earlier, was Queeving Kelleher not moving during the summer.
I think that's unfair to him because it's out of his hands.
If you wanted it, you can push it.
See, the only thing is he's got to box smart here because if he forces that transfer request, he's got to go somewhere because he's not even going to be the number two at Liverpool. And if that wrong offer comes in, yeah, we know Juventus were apparently sniffing around. How true that was,
Mm.
who knows? Would have been a fantastic move for him. But I think he's playing it as safe as he can within the confines of his space in the game. But
I I think he's very much approaching the stage and the age, more importantly, where people are going to start to go, well, you're good, but there's this 24-year-old or 22-year-old I can get for the same
yeah,
price. And I think this was his potentially his last big summer for a big move, the likes of a Juventus. And next summer he might have to take a hit and go slightly down the table than
I
he'd want to.
I would agree, bar the game time he's got during the year. I think
That was pure luck.
he 100% that was pure luck, but it's luck that's came out on his side. I think he's made a name for himself this year.
I think you're right with his windows closing in terms of that big move, but I think this summer will be huge for him. If he doesn't get a number one seat now, you're absolutely right. He'll probably end up being, and this isn't to knock a Southampton, but he'll that kind of level of number one at Southampton.
Yeah. I'm happy to concede to Coot, because I don't think there is a bigger professional howler. But I just
I
had to have it said.
I'd go Hudson, Roy Hudson.
I
He's
think
leaving.
Roy Hodgson leaving, yeah, did leave a mark, and I think we touched on it in the pod enough at the time. I think, like we said, the cool thing is extraordinary circumstances. If we look outside of that, I think you're right with Roy Hodgson.
Well, Roy, we're still rooting for you. Surprise of the season, Nate.
My surprise of the season is Chris Wood.
He's on
That
top of my
man
list as well, my man.
is on fire. Like whatever they're feeding him for breakfast, like keep feeding him. Like
Give us it.
holy, like what a rise for a fella that was really going through the motions for so many years, and you know moved on from Newcastle and stuff like that. Like that there wasn't a standout performer for them to hit this type of form. You have to wonder where does it come from.
Do you think it's just one of those lightning in a bottle seasons that like come next calendar year? Will we be saying the same thing at the end of the year?
Possibly not. Like I think a big thing will be like it could just be this system working really well. This mixture of players that he's playing with is like really working for him. Like, because to be honest, I don't think I've seen like such impact form the way he has at a club that's driving them up the table. Do you know what I mean?
I have to agree with you. He was number one on my list. I do think honorable mention to Matthias Cunha. I think has had an absolutely fantastic season. Not at the same level of Chris Wood. He was kind of on my list. Can I suggest we do a surprise of the year and then an Irish surprise of the year?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Because I'd be happy to lock in Chris Wood unless you got someone else you're passionate about, Killian.
Uh, Mine's a toss up, so I'm more than happy to take Chris Wood. Like you're saying, that is this a flash in the pan? Well, the 23-24 season, he had 14 goals. So like to be able to continue that form in a team like Nottingham Forest, I don't think it is a flash in the pan.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
when you consider he was evacuated from Newcastle on loan to get his slightly larger than they want wages off it, and then was made permanent. Yeah, like he's been incredible. I know it's recency bias or whatever, but I think Slot deserves a mention. More to the fact that how quickly he hit the ground running and how quickly Liverpool were able to move on from Klopp in a decisive manner, being the bigger surprise rather than the quality
I
performances.
have to agree with you with that. Like, do you think it's a case of, you know, I think he's obviously brought his new system. The players like him. He seems personal. That he's done well in that
Mm.
regard. Do you think it's also though that Klopp laid enough groundwork that not anyone? I'm not saying anyone could have gone in there and picked it up and ran with it, but you think it was an easier in than say post Fergie, where United were left with a skeleton team.
Um, I think I mentioned this before that I think there was a lot of really odd and not great signings by Liverpool. Lots of wingers being bought, and Slot has been able to slot them into the team. Um,
Nicely done.
like I think a lot of credit is due for the for him to be able to accommodate these players and make his system work. Yes, it could have been harder for him if it was all set up differently, but you can only deal with what you can deal with, and we've seen time and time again teams that look strong on paper that the end under the new manager falter. It hasn't this time around. So I think he deserves credit, but I think the true surprise of this season, of this year, is Chris Wood.
Yeah. For now, if we go on to the Irish
Go for your
surprises of the
Irish
year,
surprise.
the one that's been sticking out to me is Liam Delap. I think his impact in that team. I'm not saying he's a lock by any means, but
I'm not
it is
saying he's Irish.
right. He will be.
Howler the Ear.
I thought we got a cap out of him.
No,
No.
Oh
he's
god,
he's never even played
Can I
underage.
change my Howler the Ear, please?
I'm for myself with that. Oh, I thought we got a
No.
cap out of him.
No, we never even got an underage cap out of him. His dad is.
Yeah, I knew that. I thought we had him just.
No, Patrick Bamford has even got underage caps for us.
Oh wow.
Not Liam Delap.
Oh wow! Now that's Howler of the Year. I win that award. Wooden spoon for me. Thank you. Outside of that, I will go with Sammy Smollett. If you tell me he's not Irish, come on now.
No. Sammy Smollett is great. I don't know if we've seen enough of him. Well, in the Premier League, if we're doing this as a Premier League awards, I don't know if he's done enough to deserve it. If it was just a calendar year, oh my god, yes. Nate, what do you think?
I think Shelburne.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't
Yeah.
look like a title winning side ahead of the season. I think Duffer's done an amazing job, and you know they look like a real force. I'm interested to see now how they rebuild that squad because it's been taken apart. But yeah, no, they'd be my surprise of the year.
And in the similar vein, I want to say both sides of Louth can go for this award. Drogheda to get that cup victory was great. I think that was kind of very surprising. I don't think anybody really expected that, especially against Derry in the final. And then they managed to stay up, consider like they were going against relegation. But I think also the other big surprise is how bad Dundalk have been, and the fact that they nearly went bust. I think they're both surprising. But I think the biggest surprise is the fact that Conor doesn't know that Liam Delap has never played for Ireland.
I'm having a full on Chris
that's
Kamara moment.
That's getting my vote. Actually, that's my surprise of the year.
I'm having a full on Chris Kamara didn't realise someone got sent off mode. I fully thought he'd got a cap for us.
You know what the funniest part is, and the listeners we crease themselves over it, is you came up with this. You added this to the mix.
I buried myself. Yeah.
This was your award, and
this is my gift to the listener.
I can just imagine Conor sitting there. You know, I got a good one here. Yeah.
Right. Gentlemen, player of the year or manager of the year?
Let's go manager of the year. Slightly easier, I think.
Nate, who are you saying for manager of the year?
I am saying
and you can't say Liam Delap.
I am saying Mr. Emery. You know, to get that Aston Villa side to the Champions League and you know return to his gloriful position in Europe that he loves so much. Yeah, I think he's been superb, and I think he's found a real good home there at Aston Villa, and I hope he stays there for a good time to come.
I have to agree. He's definitely on my list for manager of the year. I think outside of that, I would say Nuno Espirito Santo has done a fantastic job of late. I suppose in much harder circumstances, but yeah, when you take into account what Villa have been able to achieve and the road he's had to go with other teams and to the level of fans making fun of him just of his accent, I think he's turned his managerial career around, and Emery is I'd agree with Nate for that one.
It is hard to argue against Emery, but I think Iriola at Bournemouth is worth a shout. For the whole year, like he's been great in the same way that Emery was. He guided Bournemouth to 12th last year, and another solid, probably mid table this year. By the time the season comes to a close, uh, but yeah, it's hard to look past Emery. There's just been so bloody good. Um, yeah, I like obviously Pep, but so congratulations, Unai Emery. Conan on the Villa podcast will be delighted with us. Um, Gentlemen, player of the year. Who are we saying?
I really didn't know where to go with this one. Because obviously, look, Rodgers had a Ballon d'Or winning season. That's an obvious one. But I think there's so many players that have had a great year. You know, what are you guys thinking?
Um, I'm sorry to say, lads, but I'm ending 2024 in a boring manner. I'm going with Roger.
Yeah, like if we didn't go Rodri, who would you say? See, this is what I mean. Like it's is he was he
Rodri's
that
not the
good?
name I have down.
Was he that good that he was so far ahead of everyone? Or
Rodri's not the name I have down.
I'd
do
my
you have a
sec-
list of names?
my second to Rodri would be Cole Palmer.
Yeah,
So I have a top two, and Cole Palmer is one of them. Like he literally dragged Chelsea into any kind of respectable position. Um, but I think one of the things with Rodri is what makes him look so good this year. Looking back, it is helped by the fact that City were bad without him,
well,
Yeah,
and
that
the stats don't lie. Like,
his the wobble started with his injury.
yeah, and like you could say that it's because without like he is the linchpin that makes them good, but I'm not sure if that just makes him look better, and there was other factors on that. Um, I think Rice is just as influential on Arsenal.
I don't think he's as influential to Arsenal as Rodri is. Like I think it's not just one period this year that you go back and go, Rodri was out of the team, City didn't look great. Like there's multiple on multiple, and I think for City to go on and win all the trophies and him be so pivotal, I think that's why he won the Ballon d'Or. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like I think he is kind of the boring option, but I think Palmer over Rice and Rodri did more for his team than the other two. And I Palmer would be my choice. Just
Oh,
ridiculous.
it's hard to. They've both had incredible seasons. I think based off the Ballon d'Or winning performance, I would have to say Rodri, and he's also
Do,
very nearly the captain of our team. So
do you think Rodri is like people don't rate him not that people don't rate him as much, but do you think he's like the fact that he's in a that City team goes against him? Like because
yeah,
I feel like even like say when you look back to the great CDMs and stuff, like even Sergio Busquets, like I feel like people recognize how good he was way more than Rodri currently.
I
And I
think he
don't know,
makes it look so effortless in a team of absolute behemoths that it's hard to give him the credit. While if you put him into any other team, he'd get any team to start cooking. You know.
Yeah, I think it's just there's so many players that City are so good with. Like when you look at Haaland, like would they do well without Haaland? De Bruyne, look how they struggled last season without De Bruyne for large parts of it. It's just they're playing at such a ridiculously high level.
It's almost
And
expected.
yeah, so it is hard to kind of stand out to be the player. Whereas I think when you look at Palmer, Chelsea were so bad at times. Like I at the beginning of last year,
yeah.
especially, but and this calendar year, he was amazing, and Chelsea became average, and he dragged them to being good, and he's continued that this season as well.
How
I-
much do you weigh the Ballon d'Or?
I
Like
used to weigh it more. I'll be honest.
it's like this year. I think we can all agree it was a poor class.
yeah, like in fairness, in my mind, the Ballon d'Or goes against him.
Really?
I'd be kind of going, meh, yeah, you only won the Ballon d'Or. Like, it's
You
just
only
become
won the
so
Ballon d'Or because of
politicized.
Messi or Ronaldo wasn't there.
Ah,
Yeah,
Jesus, boys, you come on now.
No, it's just so like politicized and stuff. It's just kind of like,
Oh, I don't
meh.
love it, but I mean, like, he did have a stellar year.
Absolutely, but like,
I think
I wouldn't look at the Ballon d'Or as kind of giving you any credence. I'd quicker look at the Premier League Player of the Year.
to win it over Haaland though stands out to me because Haaland's the one banging in the goals for that exact same City team. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I would have gone Vinny Jr. for it
Well, yeah,
personally.
Vinny Jr. and Jude Bellingham, and I think even Danny Carvajal were ahead of Haaland. So it's
Yeah.
like,
No, but that's what I mean though. Is like, there's clearly something extra that's being voted on that isn't just him and that team. If you get what I mean.
I know what you're saying.
yeah, I don't know. We're saying Rodri for the Player of the Year.
Yep, I think so, boys.
A boring end to 20.
Yeah, what a boring end.
Boring end. So let's just remind people: Player of the Year is Rodri. Manager of the Year, Unai Emery, which is actually great to see. Like, at least it's something a bit different. Howler of the Year is Crystal Palace's handling of Roy Hodgson's leaving. That was, I think, February 2024. We went through the dregs to get to there.
I also think December, Conor Glennon thinking Liam Delap is Irish is firmly up there.
That is a solid howler. Surprise of the Year, Chris Wood.
Yeah.
With the surprise of the year, Irish wise being that Conor Glennon doesn't know who is Irish and who's not. And flop of the year being Clattenburg's reign at Nottingham Forest. Gentlemen, they are our 2024 awards. Well done. We will be back in the new year. We may have an episode before the podcast awards. You may not.
And if we sweep that big prize, you may never see us again.
You've survived. You've survived 2 and a bit weeks without us. We're here just for that little bit of Christmas warmth. We may be another week or 2 before we're back. But in all honesty, thank you so much for listening throughout the year. We've reached heights we never thought we could. We've chatted to people we've always dreamed of. We've had more fun than we can ever look back on and even remember. And we've recorded a hell of a lot of hours. My thanks to you, the listener, for sticking with us. And my sincerest thanks to both Nate and Conor for sticking with us throughout the year. This has been a labour of love, and I can only thank you for giving up all the hours, time and effort to make this the joyous hour and a bit a week that I always look forward to. So thank you very much, guys.
And thank you to our fearless leader, that is Mr. Ginnity. The only thing I can hold against you is that you are a Mackham, but you steer this ship with perfection every week. And Nate, as always, it is such a pleasure to wind you up about Man United.
Likewise, lads, and here's to hopefully even better 2025.
Big up 2025.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Messi. Oh, my goodness! Balotelli.